Welcome all. Coleman Report Live, the last show of 2018. Lance, you are on. We don't see you, but you are definitely here. Merry Christmas, my friend. Happy holidays.
Hey, Merry Christmas to everybody on the Coleman Report Live, and Merry Christmas to Bob, Joseph, and Mike.
Hey, thank you. You know the drill. Welcome all. Let's get to the poll questions. Number one, how'd you do?
You know, Bob, it's going to be interesting to see what the results are. I think everybody probably had a pretty good SBA lending year this year.
Very good. Very good. Very good. That's sort of the distribution I expected. So we got 57% above average, and the rest of us need to do a little bit of work. How'd you end up, Lance?
I think we're a little ahead of where we were in 2017, and I think there's always room for improvement. But
absolutely, if
2019 is going.
If you ask me how Coleman Report did, we're B. We're right on target. I would have loved to have been in the A category, but we had a good year. So thank you everyone for your support. Do you see a downturn in SBA lending in 2019? Lance, I'm starting to pick up some chatter on negative articles where CFOs are predicting a recession in 2020, and there was an article also that said small business confidence is starting to wane. Now, of course, we're at all-time peaks in confidence and performance, but I'd like to see what you're projecting for 2019, only with respect to SBA lending.
Well, I think if we remember back during the last recession, and this is when I was at SBA, Bob, SBA lending was doing outstanding during the recession because small business lending basically, the faucet turned off without SBA. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in 19.
Well, hotel lending, you could not finance a hotel if you didn't have SBA. So I have no issue with this percentage. The credit markets are rocking and rolling. Credit availability is out there, and it gives and plus your borrowers, your applicants are more healthier than they have ever been. So that gives them more options in terms of conventional credit, which is what the purpose of this program is. Number three.
Well, and I think.
Go ahead, Lance.
Well, I think, Bob, also with the changes in the prime lending rate and SBA borrowers experiencing rate increases for the first time in years, a number of SBA borrowers are trying to look for a fixed rate product now.
Right. And we had that presentation. This is don't shy away of fixing those 7A loans. You can still make decent premiums. And there's an appetite in the secondary market for that. So if that is a structure that is beneficial to your borrower, don't be afraid to do that. Number three, Lance, I'm curious to see what everyone says. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge in 2019? Do we want to update the SOPs? Actually, what's the next one they're saying? They're not calling it J. What are they calling it, Lance?
Well, it's got to be K.
No, they're calling it, yeah. I picked up on a call. They're going to call it something else. Maybe someone on the call knows what they're going to call it. They can chat it to us real quick. But do we want to update SOPs? Oh, I know what they're doing, Lance. They're going to separate them. They're going to separate into a 7A SOP and a 504 SBA, 504 SOP. So that will happen. I don't know when.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, Bob, we do need an updated 5057. We've not had an update now in almost 3 years.
And what is that SOP for someone who doesn't know what it is?
Well, that's the servicing and liquidation SOP. I'm trying to make sure I have, well, the last update was, 2017. No, wait a second, Bob.
No, I think you were.
The last update last update was December 1st, 2015. So the
Right.
servicing and liquidation SOP has been there for a while. Now there have been some additional information about servicing and liquidation, but it's time for a new servicing and liquidation SOP. Also, I look forward, Bob. I think we're going to see more discussion of credit elsewhere.
Yeah, that's for the 69% of you, that will be clarified. They're telegraphing. And also, I know with the change to the Democratic side in the House, they are going to be all over this. And so there will be clearer guidelines for the industry, which is what we're all asking for. Right now, it is a little murky, a little bit of money. Very good. These were my top 5-year recap trends. Lance, we talked about the 159 of all the changes in that credit elsewhere, obviously. The emphasis on better quality credit memos. I threw this in here. I said, let's be careful of constructing new hotels. I'm not saying shy away from them, but make sure you're in a geographical area that can support that demand in 3 or 4 years. And, of course, the rules for LSPs. Lance, how I do on those? Anything that you disagree with?
Well, I think you're on point, Bob. I think both the 159, the changes in the 159 were a big item in 2018. I think continuing to emphasize proper documentation of credit elsewhere, and that ties in to having a more robust credit memo. And, for the first time, we finally have some rules and detail about the relationship between a participant bank and LSP. So I think those 5 are right on point.
Good. Let's see. Darren asked the question, how do you feel the prime rate adjustments are going to affect existing SBA loans to hotel borrowers? And what they're telegraphing 2 or 3 more interest rate increases next year. My quick take on this is your borrower wants to have these loans fixed. They're looking at 504, but I think it's going to be very difficult for you to go ahead and do a 7A loan to a flag without some sort of fixing the rate or very nominal variable prime plus 1 type of rate. Lance, what are you seeing in your marketplace?
Well, and Darren, I'm going to answer it. It looks like he's asking Bob, how's it going to affect existing SBA loans to borrowers?
Oh, very good. It would help
Darren,
if I read the script, yes.
Yeah. My comments, Darren, is I sure hope everybody's stress tested. We almost fell out of the habit of looking at what happens if the rate goes up this much. How does that impact cash flow? I think with the rate adjustments that we have experienced, we started to see more SBA borrowers feel stress in their cash flow, and you're seeing more borrowers taking advantage of the grace period and more borrowers getting 30 days past due. I think it has a definite impact because these small business borrowers operated for about 8 years on what might not have been a fixed rate, but felt like a fixed rate.
Right.
So I think it's certainly time to sharpen up your servicing and liquidation skills to be prepared, because Bob mentioned it. You've got a good flag, say you've got a Hilton product, they're probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
But
also
hotel loans.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Lance. I said you got to be careful, because the reason why secondary market premiums have decreased is because the increase in prepayments. Well, prepayments, i.e. refinances. So you got to be careful. You're going to lose those good quality loans that are going to refinance into a conventional product, and some of the weaker sisters who have the cash flow stress test situation. So, Lance, that's a perfect thing for, I know you're stressing servicing all the time, but really pay attention to your portfolios, because you're going to lose those good credits, and perhaps someone who doesn't have the financial wherewithal to refinance out of it is going to have a problem.
Well, I think the Fed is giving us direction. We need to stress test everything we're looking at now with at least a 2% increase over 2019. We may not quite get to a 2% increase, but they're talking about, well, we probably are going to hit a 1% increase. 2% is going to be on, it probably won't get to that point, but I think I'd want to stress that 1 and 2%.
Yeah, I think we're looking at 2 or 3 bumps. We're not going to hit 2%. I hope not, but
Me too.
Yeah. Tiffany asked a great question. This comes up repeatedly. Lance, what do we do as lenders with this 1919? We know that one of the number one screen outs from Citrus Heights is an incomplete 1919. But this is the borrower form. So go ahead.
Well, my favorite way to approach this is to give them a copy of the 1919, have them, they can handwrite it, they can type it in, but have them fill it out, then take that information and prepare a corrected form, whether it be an SBA 1 or whether you just pull up the fillable 1919 form and the one you haven't signed and date is a corrected form. And I think Bob brings up an incredibly relevant point. It's the borrower's form. They're supposed to fill it out, but I'd say a large percentage of borrowers will miss boxes that need to be checked, places where initials, questions 17, 18, 19, and 22 all require initials. And if I sent 10 of them out, Bob, I'd only come back with initials on a couple.
Right.
So I usually will provide the form to them, have them fill it in as best they can, and then I'll come in and prepare a corrected form, again, whether it be an SBA 1 or whether I use the fillable 1919. And that's the one I'll use to get their signature and date.
We did a webinar on Tuesday with Moody's Analytics. Pretty interesting stuff that they're doing. 70% of you say that you're going to go to more digital analysis next year. So that was, I enjoy doing those type of webinars. It keeps us on top of what's happening in the industry. And look, 2019, we all have to get more efficient, and we have to figure out ways to compete with the online lenders who are funding within 24 hours and to speed up our processes. So that is good. Hey, Lance, you put together this, we're talking about credit elsewhere, and you put this together for your webinar yesterday on, what were you talking about yesterday? Franchise closing loans.
Well, we did a webinar on franchise lending yesterday, but it kind of blended over into business acquisition lending and a discussion of credit elsewhere. And you may have there's a couple ways that you can document credit elsewhere. You can put a memorandum in file. You absolutely want to have a credit elsewhere section in your credit memo, or you can document it if you're using SBA 1. There's a loan detail and credit memo report that you can print out that has a credit elsewhere section. For those who were doing a credit memo, I just wanted to provide them. Your credit memo is going to have more than what I put there, but that would be the body. Your credit elsewhere memorandum would have more than what I presented, but this would be the body of it. You need to identify which area of credit elsewhere there's going to be the SBA loan's going to satisfy, what the bank policy is, what the proposed SBA loan is, and some additional comments or description about it to adequately document credit elsewhere. If you're using SBA 1 and you use the loan detail and credit memo report, I always recommend there's a section over there for comments, adding comments and signing and dating it as the lender. Long and short of it, Bob, you've got to have credit elsewhere documented in the credit memo. You need something in your file that shows proof of credit elsewhere was met to protect the guarantee on your SBA loan.
Absolutely. Hey, congratulations to all our Coleman winners. And there they are. We put them all up yesterday. As I've said before, this was a great exercise. A lot of these people I've never met before, so it was nice being introduced to them. And it was nice meeting them in Washington. We had several show up for the presentation. So consider next year. We're also going to be doing business development officers in January, and then of course we'll do the 2019 awards. Especially look at the emerging leaders. We like to acknowledge the wonderful up-and-coming professionals in our industry. So take a good, hard look at that. Next, there we go. We're doing a specialized underwriting training. I welcome all for that. We had a meet and greet last week. And week 1, we just did an overview. We talked about credit reasonably available elsewhere, prudent lending, and an overview of SBA. Also assigned some reading assignments that will help you do your job better. And with that, I believe, we have some upcoming webinars. Lance, what are you doing on January 2nd?
I'm going to do a webinar, and what I'm going to talk about are 6 critical servicing actions that you need to understand for the year 2019. Again, Bob, you know I'm a servicing and liquidation guy. I think 2019 is going to be the year of the SBA servicer. We're going to need to understand how to properly service our SBA loan. Also going to talk about the PAIR score because and how you can impact it as a SBA participant lender. We all want the best possible PAIR score possible. The lower, the better. And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on managing your portfolio to improve your PAIR score.
Very good. And we have 2 offerings of that. It's going to be the same presentation, but we know if you can't do it January 2nd, Lance will repeat it on the 23rd. And with that, we will see you all. We have our winter training starts January 8th, but we will see you on Thursday, January 3rd. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll talk to you after the first year.
Merry Christmas, everybody.